Monaco, one of the smallest nations in the world, yet gathers the attention of many. With luxury high-rises and some of the best sights along the Mediterranean, yachts, sports cars, and some of the best restaurants dotting across the principality. There's even the Casino de Monte Carlo for those willing to test their luck. And of course, the Monaco Grand Prix. With some of the most challenging and technical sections in all of motorsports, this race has almost a century worth of history. It's one of the most sacred crown jewels of racing and has made names like Moss, Hill, Prost, and Senna famous for life. And on June 7th this year, millions upon millions look forward to watching 22 drivers fight to etch their names in history. Even though it's also one of the most boring races you can watch. But how? I thought you said this is supposed to be one of the most prestigious races in the world. Well, I did, but part of what makes this race famous might also contribute to its downfall. Ever notice watching an F1 race here and you almost never see a single on-track pass unless it's on the first lap? And even if you do get close, it's gonna end up one of three ways. Either you get forced off, there's probably not gonna be enough room to even go for it in the first place, or you might end up the worst fate of all, crashing. The main culprit though? Well, it has to be the narrow track surface itself. Just look at this footage through the hairpin. Why is everyone having to slow down so much? Why is almost everyone hitting each other when going side by side? Well, you can thank the track for it. Even the supposed easy turns such as turn 1 or the Nouvelle chicane are impossible to pass at, not only because it's narrow, but multiple other problems with the turns themselves. Some are even petitioning to kick it off the schedule, suggesting other races like the British Grand Prix should be the real crown jewel. That race in particular, given it's held at Silverstone, also has a great deal of prestige and history, and drivers at those tracks are actually able to, pass. But is this really the track's fault? Should we instead look at changing the cars, or should we just leave the track how it is? Well, here's a track map of what the Circuit de Monaco looks like. The track is 3.337 kilometers or 2.074 miles in freedom units, and it features 19 turns. Some may look at this track map and not notice anything wrong with it and probably think it's a typical racetrack. But for me, I see multiple problems with it. Let's look at Lando Norris's pole lap for 2025. We're starting on the front straightaway entering turn 1, and it may look like a normal entry to the turn. But do you notice anything wrong as we go through the turn itself? Here's what I see. As we're on the front straightaway, you can see it probably has decent width, but when looking at the apex, the curb looks a lot closer to the middle of the straight, and that's causing the turn to look bottlenecked and reducing the amount of space to work with when trying to go for a pass. Now let's take a run through Beau Rivage into Massenet. You might recall from the track map that Beau Rivage looks like a straight, but with very slight bends from left to right heading into Massenet. But with Beau Rivage already being as narrow as it is, now that you're putting slight bends before Massenet, you're basically rejecting any overtaking opportunity into the turn, and with Massenet already being a high-speed corner that's already hard to go side by side through without crashing, you're basically not allowing any overtaking to happen at all. Here's the last section I'll show you. This is turns 17 through 19. Once again, try to spot what's wrong. You see this barrier? Of course, some people are going to say that's a tunnel road past the barrier, and of course they got to put it up for safety. But my problem is, why the hell is Monaco putting tunnel roads on the track? And that's the thing about Monaco. They seem to be obsessed with putting infrastructure on the track, which is in turn making the Circuit de Monaco worse. Here's what the original Circuit de Monaco looked like. Out of a tunnel, the Nouvelle chicane was actually called the Chicane du Port and was just a simple left-right chicane. and out of Tabac, there was nothing besides a second hairpin, which used to be called gazometer, and then you had the run to the finish line in Saint-Devault. Heck, with that hairpin today, if the cars can get a decent run and there's decent width, you might actually get a passing opportunity there. But you want to know what the government of Monaco did instead? Here. We have a redone chicane, which is now the Nouvelle chicane, and it's still stupidly narrow and impossible to pass at. Out of Tabac, we now have 2 different chicanes thanks to a swimming pool, which now kills momentum and basically gets rid of any speed you can use for an overtake. And now we have Rascasse, which is now a turning braking zone right after the second swimming pool chicane, which once again kills off overtaking opportunities. And then the Anthony No section, rather than just being one turn to the right, heading down the front straightaway, Monaco instead builds a tunnel road around 1980, at least according to the very limited information I could find, making it even tighter and forcing cars to slow down to navigate around the barrier. And because of those things, we now have one of the most problematic circuits that F1 has ever seen. And I already know there's probably going to be F1 purists down in the comments saying, "But Monaco is a spectacle. Monaco isn't supposed to be like any other F1 track. It's not about the passing opportunities, it's supposed to be about the precision needed to get around the circuit." Well, first off, I didn't say Monaco had to be like any other race. I actually like many of the things that make Monaco unique, like the challenging nature of his circuit. But if the track is so poorly designed that you can't even pass anywhere on the circuit, even if you're significantly faster than another car, or the circuit suddenly bottlenecks to becoming too narrow at a certain point to even pass at, and instead of fixing the circuit, the Monaco government decides instead to put up infrastructure around it, resulting in the circuit having to change and get even worse, then what's the point of even holding a race here at all? And heck, why do we even call it a crown jewel if the racing here is so bad to begin with? Let's look at the 1992 edition of the race, for example. Nigel Mansell was leading the race comfortably, but had a tire puncture towards the end and had to chase back down Ayrton Senna and pass him with 7 laps remaining. But with his new tires, Nigel Mansell was setting the track alight and putting up fastest lap after fastest lap. With 3 laps to go, Nigel Mansell closes in on Ayrton Senna's rear wing and looks set to pass him, right? Wrong. No matter how fast Nigel Mansell was, he couldn't get an opportunity lined up and wasn't able to get around Ayrton Senna. Ayrton, just like many other drivers, used the narrow track surface to his advantage, took the defensive lines appropriately, and easily won the 1992 Monaco Grand Prix. So you're telling me all I have to do to defend my position at Monaco is take a slightly different line, and the driver behind me has no chance of passing? Let's look at the 2019 Monaco Grand Prix. It's already been an emotional weekend due to the passing of Niki Lauda beforehand, and Mercedes shows up to the track with special red halos in honor of Niki Lauda. But towards the end of the race, Lewis Hamilton is not liking the tire strategy he's on. He's on much worn tires, and Max Verstappen is already hunting him down, along with multiple other drivers behind him. But as you can see heading into the Nouvelle chicane when Max Verstappen goes for a pass, it's clearly way too narrow for 2 cars to go through it, and it results in contact, both of them forced off track, and towards the end, Lewis Hamilton still holds on to the Monaco Grand Prix win. Even with newer tires, you can't even get around other drivers because of how stupidly narrow the track is. If that's not enough, let's go to 2024. A first lap red flag happened due to an incident between Sergio Perez and Kevin Magnussen heading up Beau Rivage. However, teams are allowed to change tires under the red flag, and if you do this and change to a different tire compound, it'll still count as the mandatory pit stop needed under the rules, meaning that one of the few ways to actually get past anyone around the circuit is now gone. This also led to something even more embarrassing. You see Lance Stroll and Fernando Alonso in 11th and 12th? Well, at some point, Aston Martin decided on a completely different strategy. What if they told Alonso to slow down the field to allow Lance Stroll enough time to get into the pits, take a pit stop without losing positions, and somehow catch Pierre Gasly and take over 10th place? But there's no way that could actually happen, right? There's no way Fernando Alonso could keep the entire field behind him while also opening the gap to over 20 seconds. 21 seconds? How the hell did he do that? Well, look at the onboard footage. Fernando Alonso is going horrendously slow through some of these corners, and yet no one can get past because there's nowhere to pass. But of course, Lance Stroll still finds a way to ruin things. What makes this even worse is that for the first time ever since the inception of Formula 1, the Monaco Grand Prix finished exactly how it qualified for the top 10, and outside of any DNFs that happened, the qualifying order for the race finished exactly how it is. Yes, not a single overtake happened during the race. Probably the only exciting thing that happened during the weekend was this weird boat incident at the harbor, but luckily no one was hurt from that. 2025 though was unfortunately more of the same. There was a new rule mandating 2 pit stops instead of 1 to try and promote overtaking, but even then only 4 passes were recorded outside of a first lap. You know what the most exciting part about the Monaco Grand Prix is? Qualifying. Yeah, what's even the point of watching a race if qualifying is the only place where spots are actually up for grabs? Heck, I'm actually looking forward to Formula E more than anything Formula 1 related this June. At least there, the racing is always entertaining and there's a lot of factors which keep the racing exciting. Oh, and let's not forget about this moment where George Russell skipped the Nouvelle chicane and passed Alex Albon that way because he got fed up with how difficult it was to pass and thought it would be better to take the penalty and try to beat it out. But I still don't want to see Monaco leave. I still really like the history of the track, and some of the things that actually make the track unique is somewhat kind of cool. So I've looked at the track and compiled a whole list of changes that I hope will make the Monaco Grand Prix a lot better. These include adjustments to the sidewalks, maybe even adding in a new section of the track, and adjusting many different turns in ways that cars will be able to pass much easier, and hopefully then we'll have a Monaco Grand Prix that is actually worth watching. Let's start off with the front straightaway. As you can see from Google Earth, the straightaway is about 12 meters wide, which sounds decent, but the pit exit, which exits just past the start-finish line onto the front straightaway, the width is suddenly bottlenecked down to about 8 meters. This is a big detriment to any chance you have at passing into turn 1, which is why I think the pit exit should be adjusted to later on down the front straightaway towards turn 1. We might have to tear down a couple of trees for this, but this is a racetrack, not a forest. The pit exit will be later on towards turn 1, but still onto the roads quick enough to where we don't have to move or destroy the William Grover monument. And no, this isn't the only poorly drawn markup that you're going to see throughout the video. But there's also some adjustments we can make to the turn 1 apex as well. Now that we have a new pit road exit, we can actually move the curb to the right just a bit more. That way we can have more space for a pass. I wish there's more we can do about the exit curbs as well, but because of the buildings on the left, it's not really possible, and I know certain people are going to be mad about me adjusting buildings or trying to adjust them, so I'm going to try to keep infrastructure changes to a minimum. Moving on to Beau Rivage, the width for this section is about 9 to 9.5 meters, and once again, because of the somewhat twisty nature of this section, it's kind of hard to line up a pass heading into Massenet. So that's why I think some of the sidewalks should actually be pushed back in order to create more width for the cars. The only alteration to structures on the right is the park I pointed out, but pushing back the sidewalk the way I intend could add just over 2 meters to the road, and with today's regulations now limiting the cars to 1.9 meters wide, that would be a big benefit for the race. This will make it easier for cars to get side by side, and heck, I'm sure Sergio Perez and Kevin Magnussen would have liked that extra width. Now we talk about turn 3, Massenet. The actual turn itself isn't actually the problem here, it's afterward that's the problem. In the middle of the road, there's a massive hump connecting to another road which leads off of it, so instead of worrying about lining up an overtaking opportunity to the next turn, drivers have to maneuver around this hump in order to get the best lap time instead of actually worrying about an overtake. I can understand that it's on the road for road safety purposes, but can we at least shave it down somewhat so that drivers don't have to weave around so much? And hopefully then we'll have a better chance at overtaking into turn 5, along with another change I propose. You might notice at turn 5, because of a barrier placement, the turn looks a little narrow to go around. This is because of a park next to it, But I do have a change where we can slightly change the park, but keep the changes to a minimum and still have the road be a bit more expanded so that cars can get around easier into the hairpin. The wall that separates the roads from the trees will be pushed back a little bit so we can still have some room for vegetation, and the walkway within the park is still wide enough for people to go through, but the road can still be expanded somewhat to where cars can get around the turn easier, maybe even side by side into the hairpin, and there's still enough room for the barriers to be put in for safety. And now for turn 6, the hairpin, the slowest corner on the F1 schedule. From both the onboard and satellite views, the Grand Hotel hairpin does look quite narrow, and some adjustments have to be made in order for cars to be able to get through here side by side. Luckily, I do see a couple of opportunities to do that. For starters, the wall that separates the park from the road could once again be pushed back to create a bit more width, but the inside of the turn, with the plants and the wall separating it from the sidewalk, could actually be made smaller. That way we could add more pavement to the road and make it about a couple more meters wider, along with some general narrowing of the sidewalks so that people can still walk on them, just make it a bit more wide for cars to go through. And once again, you have a couple more meters added onto the circuit and making the hairpin actually drivable through when side by side. But from here, this is where the changes get a bit more drastic. Usually out of a hairpin, there's a double right-hander leading into the tunnel, but this is not what we're gonna do. We're instead gonna be turning left. I introduce you all to the new Portier section. After the right-left chicane, there will be a long right-hand turn, which will then lead into the tunnel, expanding the straight heading into that. But not only does the straight into the tunnel get longer, it gives the car more slipstream to make a pass. In fact, I want to take this chance to rename some of these turns. With the new Portier section I added in, the right-left chicane before that is going to be the new Nouvelle chicane. And I know some of you are going to ask, don't we already have a Nouvelle chicane out of a tunnel? Well, if this added section was drastic to you, this is going to be far more than that. I've already mentioned before that the Nouvelle chicane as it is right now is way too narrow for F1. Some suggest some slight alterations to the chicane, or even pushing it back and creating a new chicane utilizing a new pavement section in the harbor. But I say, get rid of it completely and turn that into a straight. Now you might be wondering how the heck we're gonna do that. Well, it's actually really simple. That row of trees that's right after the Nouvelle chicane, why not just get rid of them since they're not indigenous or part of a forest anyway, and just let the cars run straight for it to back, once again creating more slipstream effect, and maybe we'll even be able to add in a second overtake zone after the tunnel, which once again makes it a lot easier to pass. And I know some people, because of this, are actually going to be concerned, what if the cars lose their brakes heading into the back? With the cars now going a lot faster and no escape road down there, what's going to happen if a car runs into the barriers and just destroy themselves? Well, I did think about this, and I saw there's actually a bit of room for an escape road out to back just in case cars lose their brakes. And of course it's going to look awkward because there's a cafe right there, which is once again an example of Monaco adding in random architecture with no regard for the track. But again, haven't we already seen many awkward things in F1? And on top of that, even if a car misses the escape road, they're still hitting an angled barrier, which is a lot better than hitting a flat one straight on. Isn't that right, Carlos? I know some people are going to say that a pushed back Nouvelle chicane is a lot better, or a solution like this won't work because of the cafe being in the way of the escape road. But unless Monaco does some alterations to the cafe or actually does make an altered chicane later on, then this solution will be the only thing holding. Now let's look at the two swimming pool chicanes. And after taking a long look at this, when it comes to the second chicane, there's only one solution for it. Get rid. There's literally no point in a second chicane if all it does is kill speed and get rid of any momentum you might have heading into Rascas. So I say go straight on, head for Rascas, and readjust the stance to the other side of the track, so that way the stance can still remain just with a different viewpoint. There can even be a building right behind the stands which connects to them, so that way fans can still head up and watch the front straightaway and even the pit stops down below if they still want to. And finally, into the final section of the track, the Apennino section. I already mentioned how much I hate this section due to the tunnel road next to it, which forces the track to narrow down. But the tunnel road, the way it enters the main road, unfortunately you can't make the tunnel road open up sooner because of a road already next to it and behind it. There's also a personal worry that any alterations or getting rid of the tunnel altogether will create a ton of traffic problems because I'm not all that knowledgeable in roads that can take you in and out of Monaco. So that's why I came up with something else. Use the road on the right instead, so that way you can have a faster run towards the finish line and even start the overtake mode zone sooner, which I say again, will result in more speed and more slipstream effects heading into turn 1, increasing the chances of a pass. And as a safety measure, we'll move the pit lane to the left with the pit buildings on the right instead, and have a pit speed line later on so that way cars won't literally slow down on the racing line. And all this will also tie into my pit exit solution as well, so that way all the fans on the front stretch can now see the pit lane like all the other tracks, and they will hopefully see cars actually passing into turn 1 this time. Those first couple trees will once again have to be removed, but we have a track to save. And the track is finally done, but I'm not done yet, because there's actually some other things we can do to fix the Monaco Grand Prix, such as race-specific rules, and I actually have a few that can help us out. Number 1. Mandate maximum front and rear wing angles. Just a quick aero lesson. Increasing the front wing angle will provide you more grip, but will result in slower pace down the straights. Similar things happen with the rear wing angles. Increasing it will keep the car more planted, but can probably make you struggle going through the turns and also slows you down in the straights. So it's important in the car setup to find the right balance. But not many people know that slipstream effect is actually increased greatly when you're behind a car that has maximum front and rear wing angles. Those increased wing angles ahead of you will punch a bigger hole in the air and will allow the car behind to gain more speed through the slipstream, increasing the chances of an overtake. And Monaco is already known for being unique and not like any other race, so why not dive into that uniqueness with these kinds of rules? Number 2, do not block the inside line. Ever notice a lot of times in Formula 1, a pass looks really close to happening, but it ends up not happening because the car in front always moves to the inside and blocks the other driver from getting to that inside line of the turns. But it makes it way too easy for the car in front to defend their position, as now all they have to do is weave to the inside, and that's it. Why not change this at Monaco and mandate that all cars before entering the turn must leave the inside open? This will hopefully be another easy strategy to let cars pass at Monaco, and we won't have the same problems as we did before. Number 3, expand the race distance past 260 kilometers. The Monaco Grand Prix right now is the only race that doesn't go to the 305 kilometer distance as required by the F1 rules. I get it's supposed to be unique, and with some condition issues it's probably better to lower the distance, but now with my solutions making the track faster and easier to pass at, why not make the race distance just a bit longer? That way we can get closer to that 305 kilometer mark. But anyway, that's my solution for fixing the Monaco Grand Prix. I know it sounds like a lot, but in my opinion, if we want to fix the Monaco Grand Prix, we have to do a lot. It would be cool as well if someone made an Assetto Corsa mod of all of my track suggestions modeled into the track itself. That way we can see what the fixed Monaco Grand Prix would look like through Assetto Corsa. But I don't have really the software to do that, so if someone else can do that, that would be really appreciated. Anyways, I'm STJ. Thank you all for watching. See you all another time.